And good morning, my friends, and welcome to the Be Real, Get Real podcast. I am so glad that you joined us for this episode, and I trust that you will be glad too. I am Nancy Matthews, one of the founders of Women's Prosperity Network, and our Be Real, Get Real podcast is the opportunity for you to meet some extraordinary women living amazing lives and sharing their stories, their tips and strategies so that you too can tap into your best self. And today's guest, Karen Dean, is going to be guiding us in a conversation around resilience. And boy, don't we need that these days. Yes, yes, yes. So, Karen is a resilience expert, an inspiring speaker, a fierce leader, best-selling author, mentor, mom, survivor, advocate, limit pusher. Just love all those titles. And that's just a few of the words. So I am so grateful to have you with us today. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I'm so happy to be here.
And I'm grateful that you're here, especially because you're coming to us from Nova Scotia, right?
I am way on the beautiful east coast of Canada. If you ever get a chance to come, I highly recommend it.
I would love to come there one day, especially in these summer months, because I'm not a winter girl. I'm a Florida girl.
Right. And we're similar to Florida in that we're surrounded by ocean, but in Nova Scotia, you are no more than a 1-hour drive from a beach.
Beautiful.
So you're always close to the ocean here, which is one of our selling features.
Which is great. All right. Well, let's dive right in.
Sure.
And I'm going to just ask right off the top, how did you come to be an expert in resilience?
The easiest answer I have for that question is life. As you said in all of my titles, I'm a survivor. So I'm a survivor of toxic family relationships. I'm a survivor of 2 abusive marriages. And in the second marriage, my husband actually sexually assaulted my daughter. I'm a survivor of kids with serious health issues. My son, when he was 8 weeks old, they told me he was born with a brain injury and would probably never walk or talk. He does walk and talk. He's amazing. But last year he was diagnosed with cancer. That daughter who was sexually assaulted for 2 years, 6 months after I found out about that, her lung collapsed at school one day. She barely missed needing surgery. A year after that, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when she was only 15. Just been so many things, and that's not even everything. And so I've been forced to be resilient because it was the only choice I had. And what I like to talk to people and inspire people about is that, we really don't have a choice. I mean, we sometimes make the wrong choices, but for me, it was about making sure my kids had a good role model, making sure I could build a legacy for them, and making sure that they could come out as good humans. I always say the biggest success to me is raising good humans, no matter what other successes I have in my life, which I've been fortunate to have many, but my biggest success is my kids, and that they go out into this world and be kind and caring and good humans and contribute to the world. And so far, so good. I've got 2 into adulthood and 1 more to go.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. And Karen, I actually want to take us back a step, because you say that in the face of all of these challenges and circumstances that had happened in your life over and over again, you didn't have a choice but to be resilient. And I don't know that that's necessarily true, because there were other choices you could have made along the way. You could have stayed in bed and been depressed and miserable and not been able to get out of bed because you didn't know how. So where is it that you found, like, where did it come from, this strength to get out of bed? Because I bet there were days you didn't want to.
And there were days I didn't, to be honest. And I think that's the important thing to know, is that even the most resilient people, even the people with all the tools, we still have bad days. We still have days that aren't our best, or didn't look like our best yesterday. But what I like to say is, as long as we're doing our best every day, and we understand that our best does look different each and every day. So some days the best that I could do was literally get out of bed. Some days the best I could do was feed my kids some kind of processed food that was easy. Sometimes we had cereal for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the best I could do that day. And I think it's so important that we give ourselves that grace, that we don't hold ourselves to the highest standard every single day, because it's just not realistic.
Yeah. And I'm glad we're having this level of the conversation, because I believe that there's this fallacy in the world of personal growth and personal development that every time, oh, I'm great all the time. And I am most of the time, but
Right.
I get pissed off too. I,
Yes.
I get upset, and it's being able to move through that, recognize it, and then choose something different. Right.
Yes. And the thing that I like to say, and that many of us avoid, is we need to feel the feelings. And so many of us bottle it up inside and don't deal with the fact that we are scared, the fact that, we really don't have a clue what we're doing. I mean, when my ex-husband looked at me and told me he'd been sexually assaulting my daughter for 2 years, I didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I took a couple of deep breaths and I said, you need help and I need to get my kids safe. So, in the moment, I think it's important to take those deep breaths so that you're reacting from a different place. Had I reacted with my first reaction, I probably would have been in jail. So we have to breathe, and we have to give ourselves grace to know that we don't always really know what we're doing, but we have to try.
Yeah.
And you have to look for the people who can help. You have to advocate for yourself and for your kids if it's a situation like some of them that I have faced. And develop the tools. And if you feel like you don't have them, find somebody who can help you with it. Which was tough for me. I don't have a lot of family support or anything. And it's really hard when you have friends who just don't get it. And you have to give them the grace, because how can they get it if they've never been through it? So it's been a big learning curve for me. And I call myself a resilience expert, but I still have horrible days. I still have days where I don't want to get out of bed. I still have days where I would call myself depressed. I have days where I sit on my couch all day and just read books because that's all I can do today.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's the most important thing, is to know that every day is not going to be whatever our version of perfect is, but you have to still get through it. You have to try your best. And I actually just had this conversation with my cousin this morning. Her daughter's having a really hard time going back to school. And I said, just remind her to do her best today, and that the best today is not going to look like the best tomorrow, but do your best every day and feel how you're feeling. If you're scared, say you're scared. Tell yourself you're scared. Tell yourself this is scary, and work through that feeling. Because when we don't admit to the feelings, they all stay bottled up, and then we can't get through them. Like, in order to be resilient, you have to work through the feelings, not block them out.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you're sharing this piece about acknowledging your feelings, because especially when we've done something or we've been through an experience that maybe we're ashamed of, or I didn't show up as my best self, or how could I have let this happen? Like, I was involved years ago with a man who, it turns out, he had a double life going on. He had another woman. He was taking money from me, and I was just giving money. I was very happy. And then, when everything revealed itself, I went through a period like, how could I have been so stupid? And where do you share that? Because we don't want to be judged, right? We don't, it's not always easy to have those conversations, which is why having a safe space, that needs to be built now, right?
Yeah.
To build those relationships now, which I suspect you've built some of those relationships, and part of the way that you've been able to progress and now show others how to do it is by building a support system and a community, right?
I do have my most important resource, I would say, is my therapist. And I don't think we should ever be ashamed to
Good.
seek a professional, because they know not to judge you. They will sit there, and there's somebody who's totally removed from the situation. So
Mhm.
you can speak about it and you know that they're not going, because if they know the other side of it, it's hard for them not to judge, and it's hard for them not to think about the other person. But when you go and just talk about your feelings with a therapist, I think that's been super helpful for me. And the other thing, probably a lot of the women in this group are parents. And I think the most important tool we can give our kids in this is to be real with them and to
Mhm.
admit that you're scared to them, to admit, you know what, mom doesn't really know exactly what she's doing right now, but we're going to try.
And we'll get through it, right? We'll get
Yeah,
through
and we
it.
will get through it. And that's my son with his cancer battle. I mean, we've been through the whole not thinking he wasn't going to be able to walk or talk. Like for the first 6 years of his life, we were at the doctor of some kind of medical professional over 150 times before he started school. And he used to say, and this is something that I do talk about when I do my talks with women, is he would say, I can't do this. I can't walk. I can't say that word, whatever it was at the time. He was just little and still learning the basic skills. And I used to say, there's no such thing as I can't. There's only I don't want to.
Mhm.
And that got him through those first 5 years of life. And he started school without even any help. He didn't have any special help at school ever. And has graduated and is now out working and normal as we get. And I think that helped him so much when he got the word that he had cancer, because he's just like, I can do this. I've been through the hard things. I know I can do the hard things, and I've done it before.
Mm.
And he handled cancer like an absolute rock star. So
Wow.
I said, it's the best thing we can give ourselves and our children is to know we can do the hard things and to be real with them, and with age appropriate information, and say, you know what, this is hard, this is scary, mom's scared, but we're going to do this, and we're going to do the best that we can do. And my kids are shining examples of how well that works as a parent.
Well, your kids are shining examples, and you are a shining example of what's possible for all of us as we face adversities and challenges, and they're going to keep coming.
Right.
Right? That's the
That's for
constant.
sure. The
Right?
one given in life is there will be hard times.
Yeah.
So we need to get the tools to deal with them.
Yeah. What are some of the other tips and tools for resilience that you can share with our community today?
Well, like I said, the very first one is breathe. And that's something, we breathe every second of the day, but we don't think about it.
Mhm.
And I like the number 3. I usually take 3 really deep breaths and just think only about breathing. And I say
Ah,
they're the breaths that make you feel really, and I hate the words to use fat, but I do, make you feel really fat when you breathe in, but then
like
make you
fill
feel
out
really
that belly.
skinny. Yeah, and then you feel really skinny when you breathe it all out.
Yeah.
Those are the breaths that you need to take to, just reset your brain, because you come at it from a better place. Because our instinct when something hard happens is to stop breathing.
Right. Clench up. Right. Contract.
Yeah. And then our brain isn't getting the oxygen it needs to make a good choice at that point. So breathing, number 1, and so important with every part of our lives. We touched on these. I have like 7 kind of tools that I like to use, but setting boundaries. I talked about, toxic family relationships. I had to remove some people from my life who I thought would be in my life forever. My parents, for example, because it was toxic and horrible, and they weren't supporting me, and they're bringing me down, my mom especially. So it's important to set boundaries in every relationship in your life, of say, you know what, this is bringing me down and I can't do this. And if they don't respect that, then you do have to sometimes make the hard choices to just not have them in your life anymore.
Can I ask a question about that? I did an interview earlier, and we were talking about this aspect of, when you have family members or somebody really close to you that you need to remove from your life, there can be a big loss there, not only for you, right? speaking about your mom, it's like the dream you had of what the relationship with your parents and your children would be like as grandparents.
Yeah.
Not always easy. And
No. And people say, but that's your mom. And I'm like, the thing is, I don't miss the mom I had. I miss the mom I wish I had, which I never had that.
Yeah.
And I think we do it, and I did it in my marriage too, is, you have this illusion of what that husband is going to be. And in the beginning and in the honeymoon stage, even if maybe he wasn't really that, you had yourself convinced he was that, or I did.
Right. I romanticized it when I was in the relationship with the guy that, was leading this double life. There were clues.
Yeah.
There were clues.
But you ignore them because you want them to be this perfect partner and husband. And I ignored them until I couldn't anymore. And, he was threatening to shoot me and all kinds of fun stuff like that. And it took me 9 years to leave because I was too scared. But you have to do the hard things, even though it hurts. And it does hurt that I don't have my parents in my life. And it does hurt when, my best friend has a great relationship with her parents. And she's like, oh, mom and dad did this and mom and dad this. And I'm like,
I wish I had that. I wish I had that. Right. Yeah.
But I vowed to not ever let my kids be able to say that. That's kind of my goal, is to be the best mom that I can be and support them in every way I can and be proud of them. I've never felt like my mother was proud of me. So, I make sure they know I love them and I'm proud of them and I want the best for them every day. And that's a great thing. Back to the tools.
Yeah.
Understand that we are perfectly imperfect. There isn't a person on this planet who is perfect, but we're all perfectly imperfect in our own way. And that goes back to the whole comparison thing, which is huge with social media. And we're scrolling through everyone's highlight reel. And, it's not real life. I mean, I've had people say to me, oh, your life's going so great. I see you on Instagram. And I'm like, it's not all the truth, but I do put some of the negative out there, but I don't put all of it because you have to keep some things private. Focus on what you want. So many of us are like, I don't want this. I don't want this. But that's what our brain thinks about. Say, I want this. I want success. I want abundance. I want love, whatever the case is. Say what you want, not what you don't want.
And isn't it often easier until it's not, right? Until you get trained and practiced in this process of asking for what you want. So often it's easier to say, oh, I don't want that. I don't want that. And now when you're using that language and putting your focus on it, well, where attention goes, energy flows, and then we produce those things. So making that shift. So one big tip is to pay attention. Am I focusing on what I don't want or what I want, and make that shift?
Yeah.
Good.
And back to my first husband, I had a list of all the things I did not want in a man. He was every single thing I did not want. He was every single thing on that list when I actually look back. So anyway, find something to be happy about every day. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life. There is something that you can find joy in every single day. I encourage people to write it down. And I actually thought of this when we were talking about finding your circle of people to help. Sometimes when you can't bring yourself to tell people the problems, it helps to write it down. Get a journal, just write. Like spill it all out on paper. It sometimes helps people to spill it all out and then go burn the paper, whatever is the most therapeutic for you. But if you don't feel comfortable getting it out verbally, then write it out and just let it all, like, release it.
Let it out. Right.
Yeah.
Get it out.
We talked about feeling the feelings, and the biggest, most important thing and the best tool that a life coach gave me probably 10 years ago now is to speak kindly to yourself. And what I like to say is picture yourself as 5-year-old you. Would you say things, even in your head, to little 5-year-old you that you say to yourself now?
So good.
And the tool that she gave me that I still use and I use in all of my talks is a postcard that I still have in my bathroom. And she said, I want you to take this home. I want you to repeat it to yourself in the mirror every single day. And I could not do it for 2 years. It took me to be able to say the words in the mirror. And those words are, I deeply and completely love myself.
Mm.
And I
Everybody,
did.
hey, if you're listening, watching, however you're tapping into this podcast today, say these words now. What are the words again?
I deeply and completely love myself.
I deeply and completely love myself.
How'd that feel?
Ooh, that feels really good. Like I felt it all the way down into my belly.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. It took me two
Yeah,
years. I
yeah,
used to cry. I used to look away.
yeah.
Now, like, it's not arrogant to walk by a mirror and look at yourself and go, damn. Like,
Fun.
it's not. You have to love everything about yourself. You don't have to look like the skinny fit girls on Instagram. Like, you have to just be you. We're all beautiful. We're all beautiful for what's inside. And, I think we really need to remember that. And that helps us so much in being resilient, is to really believe in ourselves and love ourselves.
Beautiful. Well, what a perfect way to put a cherry on the ice cream sundae of this beautiful podcast.
Yes.
So love yourself. And if you're struggling, like Karen did for those 2 years, perhaps you want to reach out to Karen and get some support so you can make progress along the path to being able to say, I deeply love and appreciate myself. Is that what the word
No,
is?
I deeply and completely love myself.
I deeply and completely, okay, I needed that,
Yeah.
completely love myself.
Yes.
Yeah. And it may not be easy. And there's some things you'll probably need to release in order to really feel that at its depth. So, Karen, thank you so much for sharing your spirit and your wisdom and your resilience with us today. You are truly a special human being on this
Thank you so
planet.
much.
Grateful to have you with us.
I am so grateful to be here, and I want to share that I published a book called We Are Unbreakable, and there are 22 stories in it from resilient women from Nova Scotia. But I think people from everywhere can relate to them. So in 2020, we had a really tough year. Everyone did with the pandemic. We also became the home of Canada's largest mass shooting, which I lost a friend in, and she was my inspiration for publishing that book. So there's a lot of really amazing stories and inspirational stories from women in Nova Scotia in the book. It's available on Amazon. And for anybody who has little kids, I have to do this one.
Do it.
My 13-year-old daughter wrote a book.
Oh, wow. That is awesome.
We just published it. It's also on Amazon. So
it's called It's Okay to Be Different.
Sadie's story. It's okay to be different. So if you search, her name is Casey Deanne. I'm going the wrong way. So Deanne is Deann, and Kacey is her first name. So I challenged her to come up with a way to help pay for her very expensive horse passion. And she wrote a children's book, and it's all about how it's okay to be different and about the power of unconditional love. In this case, for a little girl and her horse. But yeah, she's 13.
That's awesome.
And we released it on Friday the 13th because we thought that was a perfect day to do that. So yeah, it's not even been out for a month yet. And I'm so proud of her for writing her first of many. She has 5 more in the works that she's working on.
Awesome. And she's 13?
She's 13.
That is awesome. So good. So get the book, and you can go to Karen Dean Speaks or Amazon for Sadie's story. It's okay to be different. Love, love, love that. And I look forward to getting the book myself.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us, Karen. Thank you to joining us for this Be Real, Get Real podcast. We'll be back next week with another episode and an extraordinary woman to introduce you to. Until we meet again, get out there and remember, it's okay to be different. Be resilient and be the one for yourself first and then for others. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.